Hey guys, Legendaray here, and welcome back to another Clash Royale video. Now, the Tornado is probably one of the most influential cards in this entire game. In fact, I'll even go as far as to say that if the Tornado was suddenly removed from the game, the meta would suddenly become very different. The Tornado introduces so many interesting mechanics as well as difficulties that deck builders have to kind of work around. And while in general, the concept of the card seems very simple, there is actually quite a bit of depth when it comes to trying to play the card as skillfully as possible. In fact, the Tornado is one of the cards that gets misplayed the most, even in the highest level esports matches, so there definitely is quite a bit of a learning curve when it comes to playing the Tornado as effectively as possible. So today, I'm going to be taking a deep dive into how exactly to play the Tornado card properly. First off, I'm going to be giving a basic overview of the card, as well as a couple of basic uses that you can utilize. Next up, I'm going to be taking a bit of a deeper dive into the synergies that it offers, as well as a couple of more technical aspects that you need to pay attention to in order to play that Tornado. Last but not least, I'm going to be going over every single King Tower activation I have been able to find using the Tornado card. There are actually quite a few, and while some of these situations you are not going to see all that often, it is very useful to know these interactions in order to maximize your chances of getting King Tower activations and giving you a huge edge going into later parts of any match. Anyways, before we get into the video, if you guys could please leave a like down below and subscribe to the channel, that would be greatly appreciated. In addition, if you'd like to support me, feel free to use code RAY in the Clash Royale shop. That's right, I have a brand new creator code, and with the new season starting up in just a couple of days, if you do decide to support me, that would really help me make more high quality Clash Royale videos. And with all that out of the way, let's get right into the guide. Let's go ahead and start off with a quick intro and overview of the Tornado card. Starting off with the basics, the Tornado is a 3 elixir card that is mostly level independent. That's because the defining characteristic of the Tornado is the pulling mechanic, which actually is not restricted by its level. Its range is 11 tiles in diameter, meaning that it can almost hit both lanes when placed in the exact center, and that really big range is part of what makes this such an effective card to play. Once placed, the Tornado takes 1 second to pull units towards the center, dealing a tick of damage every half second for a total of 2 ticks. Against troops and buildings, this damage is minimal, being able to kill skeletons in 1 tick and spear goblins in 2. Now, while the NATO itself won't be enough to kill goblins, minions, rascal girls, princesses, dark goblins, firecrackers, archers, and lava pups all on their own, you can actually combine this with a small spell such as a snowball or a log to finish them completely. This is a big reason why a large amount of Tornado decks actually run 2 to 3 spells. The Tornado, along with a small spell, is absolutely amazing at clearing out low HP swarms, and then the optional big spell is there if it does synergize very well with the specific deck. Now, against Crown and King Towers, the Tornado also does very minimal damage. At a tournament standard, it's just 48, which honestly is not that much, but it can be useful when you're just trying to get a little bit extra tower damage at the very end of the match. However, there is something that you do have to watch out for, and that is accidentally activating the opponent's King Tower. Especially when you're playing certain decks such as Graveyard as well as Beatdown, there are definitely going to be situations where you want to play the Tornado on offense. However, because the Tornado has such a large range, you have to be careful to not hit the King Tower with the Tornado, activate the King Tower, and then result in an absolutely terrible time for you for the rest of the match. Anyways, now that we've gone over a couple of the basics of the Tornado, let's go ahead and hop into a few of the synergies as well as technical aspects that surround this card. Now, on defense, the most obvious use of the Tornado is to get a King Tower activation by pulling opposing units to the King's Tower. This is something that we will cover much later in this episode, where I go over all of the King Tower activations in the game. A lot of decks really focus on getting that King Tower activation, especially decks that are focused around control, because the goal of a control deck is to be able to make positive trades on defense on your side of the arena. One way of making these positive trades is by utilizing your Crown Towers, and by having a 3rd tower activated, that's going to be so effective and give you a much easier time on the defensive end. Let's go ahead and take a look at this diagram. After activating King's Tower, you can see the different ranges where the towers will actually overlap. And so on certain defenses, you can actually NATO the troops inside the range where all 3 towers will be able to attack, and that is going to be very, very effective at allowing you to pull off insane defenses for positive elixir trades. In addition, if you have a building, by playing the building 4 tiles from the river, that's going to pretty much guarantee that a melee unit is going to get targeted by all 3 towers once it starts hitting said building. That being said, however, against certain matchups, you're not going to really waste your time trying to get a King Tower activation. The 2 specific ones I'm going to be talking about are Royal Giant decks and Siege decks. Against Siege decks, this is pretty obvious. I mean, the Expo is not going to cross the bridge, the King Tower is not going to get any value, so don't even bother trying to get a King Tower activation unless you are playing a mortar deck that has a separate win condition such as Bait or Graveyard. Against Royal Giants, well, the same situation applies. The Royal Giant is a huge ranged unit that deals damage like 6 tiles away from your Crown Tower, so there's honestly very, very few situations where the King Tower will come into play in this match. Moving on from King Tower activations, we also have its synergy with splash units. May that be cheap units such as the Firecracker, or more expensive ones such as the Bowler or the Sparky. On a defense, using the splash units and comboing it with the Tornado can group units together so that the splash damage of the defensive troops can get a ton of value at demolishing entire pushes. In addition, against the clone spell, the Tornado is also very, very useful. Good clone players will do their best to bait out your Tornado first, so be very, very careful as to how you're using the Tornado so that the opponents are not able to get a very effective clone down on the field. One thing that you do have to watch out for is the Skeleton Barrel. Since the Skeleton Barrel actually has that death animation, that means that the skeletons won't actually appear on the arena until after the Tornado has expired. So again, this is another situation where having a small spell with the Tornado is very, very useful at cleaning out those final couple of skeletons. Last but not least, you can also use the NATO to avoid death damage. Occasionally, you know, if a giant skeleton or a golem sneaks onto your tower, NATO it away right before the units die, and that will mean that your tower will not have to take the 1,000 or so damage from the giant skeleton bomb or the couple hundred damage from the golem death damage. On the offensive side, the Tornado definitely still has quite a few uses, but it's not as technically advanced as it is on defense. The first use is a synergy with splash units. Just like on defense, by using a splasher in a Tornado on offense, you can group the opponent's defense together while the splash units take that entire defense down. This can be extremely deadly in certain decks if you NATO the opponent's troops into the arena tower as well, because the splash units will not only take out defensive units, but also get splash damage onto the arena tower. This doesn't actually have to be limited to just splash units. If you have a big push coming in and the opponent has a ton of ranged answers, you can just tornado those ranged units into the melee units, allowing them to damage down those splashers as quickly as possible. Last but not least, there's also a little bit of a synergy with siege. When you're playing Tornado in Expo or Mortar, you can occasionally predictive NATO the opponent's tanks out of range of the siege card, allowing for a very, very nice and fancy connection onto your opponent's tower. When you're using the mortar, there also is an additional NATO play you can use, and that is to NATO the troops into the blind range of the mortar. This is a little bit more risky and requires a lot more practice to pull off properly, but it can be very deadly at getting you an extra mortar shot when you really just need that tower damage. Last but not least, let's go over the technical aspects of the Tornado. The first is the effect that a moving troop will have on the Tornado. If a troop is moving, it is going to be much more resistant to the pull of the Tornado, meaning that oftentimes you won't be able to actually pull off certain King Tower activations. Next up, there are also 2 additional factors that will change how effective your NATO will be: troop speed as well as troop mass. Starting off with the speed of a troop, obviously the faster a troop is, the more difficult it is to pull it with the Tornado. This is why Tornado is not very effective against charging units such as the Princes, the Ram Riders, and the Battle Rams, because they're moving so quickly that they can almost completely resist the pull of the Tornado. So make sure you're keeping that in mind, and again, make sure that those troops are either frozen or stationary before you try and pull those troops effectively by resetting them with a log or a zap. Troops in Clash Royale also have specific masses. Here's a chart that shows the mass of every single unit currently in Clash Royale. Of course, the heavier a unit is, the more resistant it is to the tornado pull, and you'll see that usually the higher mass a troop is, the harder it is going to be to pull to the King Tower. Last but not least, I want to talk about grouped units. When units are grouped together, it's actually much harder to effectively pull them to your King Tower, and a lot of good players will try and take advantage of this. For example, against a Hog player that knows that you're playing the Tornado, they might always push in with a Hog comboed with a Knight. To counter this, you can oftentimes just pull the tank away, thus separating the two units apart. Again, the more units you're trying to pull, the less effective the pull will be, so you're going to really want to make sure that you can separate units properly in order to pull off a successful King Tower activation. Anyways, with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and hop into all of the King Tower activations in Clash Royale. Some King activations are not viable for every single card placement. For those specific activations, I will be labeling them into one of three categories. An inner activation means that the troop needs to be placed in one of these tiles to activate. A center placement expands that range by one tile further out. Finally, the outer activation covers almost the entire arena, but there are a couple of squares where the activation will not work. There will be a couple of special cases, but those tiles will be highlighted in the specific activation itself. So there we go, that is my ultimate guide to the Clash Royale Tornado. As you can see, there is quite a bit that goes into playing the Tornado effectively, and while in general the concept of the card is quite simple, once you get into the technicalities, there actually is quite a bit that you have to pay attention to. I hope you guys all learned something from today's video, and if you did, be sure to leave a like down below because that would greatly help me out. But unfortunately guys, that's all I've got time for in today's episode. Huge thanks to all of my channel members, you guys are the absolute G's. If you enjoyed, please leave a like down below as well as a subscription to my channel, and as always, this is Legendaray and I'm signing off. See you guys next time.